안녕하세요. Hello, I'm Shannon. Welcome to the Korean Grammar Warehouse. Today I'm going to talk about several patterns of the part to combine with words. As mentioned before in the previous video, in order to learn a variety of the connecting and ending words 어미 and the auxiliary words 보조용언, it is necessary to first understand the types of them, because there is something in common where they begin. Therefore, understanding these types makes it easier to use them in sentences. There are three types of form patterns in 어미 and 보조용언 that are combined with the vocabulary or other expressions. First, it is a form that starts with 어. And second, a form that begins with 으. And the last one that starts with several consonants. The numbers of the first and the second ones are much more than the third. And the third one is easy when studying Korean grammar because the form of words attached to their front does not change. However, in the case of 어, and 으, the patterns are the same and can be easily modified and used once the set of rules are well learned. So, what are the rules that apply in common? First, let's take a look at the grammatical expression that starts with 어. There are so many 어미 and 보조용언 having this type in the head. The connecting words are various, such as 아어서, 아어도, 아어봤자. And for the ending words, the present tense 아어요 and the past tense 앗었어요 are mostly used. There are also many auxiliary words such as 아어주다, 아어보다, 아어놓다, etc. To use this form 어 with a word, yang and in must be understood first. Korean alphabet system, Hangul, tends to combine words and pronunciation of similar characteristics. Its properties are largely divided into two categories, positive and negative. Yang means the sun, which means brightness as well as positive, and in means the moon, which means darkness as well as negative. You can understand that each of these vowels here has a positive and negative nature. However, only some of these are used for combining with the grammatical expressions because there is no word that has the rest of the vowels as the last syllable in the word. So in Korean language, O, A, and Ya are what is called positive vowels, and the vocabulary with them as the last vowel is made by combining A after them. And the words having the rest of the vowels, such as U, I, 으, 여, as the last syllable are made by combining all with negative energy. However, there is a condition. When the last syllable of the vocabulary ends with a consonant, the consonant 이응 is included in combination with the word. There are the examples. 좋다, meaning to be good, comes into 좋아. 놓다, meaning to put on, comes into 놓아. These words have 오 as the last vowel, therefore they are followed by 아. 짧다, meaning to be short, comes into 짧아. And 알다, meaning to know, comes into 알아. These words have 아 as the last vowel, therefore they are followed by 아 too. The same goes for this word 얇다, meaning to be thin. As for form change, so it comes into 얇아. On the other hand, these vowels have negative energy, so that they are followed by 어, which has the opposite feeling of 아, when 아 grammar expressions come along. So 웃다 meaning to smile or laugh comes into 웃어. 죽다 meaning to die comes into 죽어. 적다 meaning to be a little or a few comes into 적어. 먹다 meaning to eat comes into 먹어. Because they they have u and o as the last vowel. The same goes for the words as for form change. So 있다 meaning to have or exist comes into 있어. 없다 meaning to not have or not exist comes into 없어. 싫다 meaning to hate comes into 싫어. 입다 meaning to put on or wear comes into 입어. 늦다 meaning to be late comes into 늦어. 뜯다 meaning to take something off by picking or biting comes into 뜯어. 열다 meaning to open comes into 열어. These words all have the same rules in combination. And here are the other cases. All we saw earlier were the cases where the last syllable of the word ends in consonants, but this time we will look at the words that end in vowels. The same rules apply to changing the form by dividing its personality by yang and in. But in the case of words ending in vowels, the corresponding vowel types differ slightly from those seen earlier. For example, there is no word ending with ya, and there is an additional word ending with e and we here. And there is one more vowel e here, which doesn't go with positive vowel after it, as an exception. In addition, the consonant iung is not used in combination because they function as the last syllables of the vocabulary attached in front. So 오다 meaning to come comes into 와 because you get the diphthong 와 when o and a come together. The same goes for the words as for form change. So 보다 meaning to see or watch comes into 봐. However, the two vowels for 보다 can be divided when used like 보아. It's an exception. 가다 meaning to go comes into 가. In this case, the vowels being used to combine are the same, a. So they should be abbreviated into one. And 타다 meaning to get on or ride takes the same rule, so it comes into just 타. 주다 meaning to give comes into 줘 because you get the diphthong 워 when u and o come together. But just like the case of 보다, the two vowels of u and o can be also separated. However, in the case of 배우다, meaning to learn, only the abbreviated form of 배워 is used. 서다 meaning to stand comes into 서. The combining vowels are the same, so that they come into one just like the case of 가다. 시다 meaning to be sour comes into 셔, because when e and o come together, they turn to the diphthong 여. 켜다 meaning to turn on comes into 켜. In this case, though the vowels of the word 여 is not the same one with the following vowel in the combination, you can deal with the vowel 여 as the one which has o inside. So the two vowels get together as one. So 펴다 meaning to spread out comes into 펴 by the same rule. If the vowel of the word is already a diphthong like 에 and 에, it's usually separated from the following vowel 어 with the consonant iung when written. But the shortened form can be also used. 되다 meaning to get burnt comes into 대 or 되어. And the same rule applies to 캐다, meaning to dig out. So both 캐 and 캐어 are fine. Lastly, however, even if they can be shorted when pronounced in a row, like in the case of the vowel e coming into 여, they should not be abbreviated if you don't write that way. This is explained in this word 쉬다, meaning to rest. So 쉬다 comes into 쉬어. And 핥히다, meaning to scratch, comes into 핥히어 by the same rule. So, to sum up for the rules of combining with the same energy after the words, if the last syllable is a vowel, the two vowels that can be abbreviated are mostly abbreviated, like 보다 and 주다. And there are two vowels that must be abbreviated, like 가다 and 시다. And there are two vowels that can't be abbreviated, like 쉬다 and 핥히다. And also two vowels that both ways are fine, like 대다 and 캐다. I skipped the explanation about the rule for the vowel 으 because the vowel doesn't apply to the same rule here. It changes the form in an irregular way when combining. So let's see that in one of the following videos. Now let's go for the next rule for the word having ha within. There are lots of words which have ha at the end. Some of them are adjectives, the other words are active verbs, and the words can be made with nouns inside or not. But the composition or nature of the word does not affect this rule. 하다 comes into 해 by going through the process of combining with 여, and there is no exception. Actually, 하여 is also used, usually in written form, but not often. So, 날씬하다, meaning to be slim, comes into 날씬해. 미안하다, meaning to be sorry, comes into 미안해. 좋아하다, meaning to like, comes into 좋아해. And 공부하다, meaning to study, comes into 공부해. These two are adjectives, and the other ones are verbs. And only one of them has the noun inside for the word here. However, the division is irrelevant with the combining form of ha. We have so far seen the basic rules of combining vocabulary and the grammatical word which starts with a, o. But there are some words that change the form in some irregular ways. Because there is no special standard for distinguishing words that cause irregular form changes from the words that do not. Variable words in the irregular forms are something that learners should memorize. I will explain them in the next video. Thank you for watching. 감사합니다.